Cool.
Welcome to Keep Your Torch Lit podcast, the final episode of the season. Oh my goodness. This is Sam.
Wow.
This is Sarah.
And this is Jack. And there are no more lies left to tell. There's no more podcast episodes left to record.
At least for season one.
It's for season one.
Yeah.
We no longer have to pretend that we're surprised by the things that are happening every time and that we don't know what's going to happen next, because now we all know everything.
Yeah.
And no more spoilers. George's not going to be constantly monitoring every word of this podcast to see if anything's spoiled.
Doesn't that mean we can't say low spoilers anymore?
Whoa, no spoilers.
Oh, no. Oh.
All right.
So I think this last podcast is basically just going to be going over the last episode and answering any lingering questions that are still left.
Mm-hmm. I think there's still one big lingering question in the mind of every Survivor viewer.
Oh, what is it,
What's
Jack?
that, Jack?
It's, are the Alexes dating? Are they single? What is the situation with the Alexes?
Guys, we actually got a question asking if you guys were single. So
You guys, what
please-
guys?
Who are you talking
Wait.
to? Are you talking to me and Jack?
No, I'm talking to the Alexes.
The Alexes are here.
What?
Hello.
Hey!
Whoa.
Oh.
All right, give us the Alex tea.
We got some tea for you.
Oh, wow. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, first introduce yourselves, not like
Yeah.
so the audience can distinguish your voices because you guys are so similar.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. This is Alex Thal. I'm in Los Angeles broadcasting. Excited to be here.
Live from Los Angeles.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's right. Live from my apartment.
Amazing.
And I'm the other Alex. I am here in sunny Montville, New Jersey.
Oh.
Where I grew up, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, first, let's start off by just giving a nice round of applause. Alex Rousey, the first winner.
Thank you.
Good job.
And Thal, the first winner of the Survivor Michigan Fan Favorite Award.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Is that true?
Sure.
So
Based-
Alex Aldo
Do I win a car?
Yeah.
the Survivor Michigan glow up from day one to day
Yeah.
whatever it was you're voted out.
You really
Yeah.
grew into your body.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. This is a real long con.
Yeah.
It actually was, though. I shaved my head. I mean, I kind of wanted to shave my head that summer, but I've never done that before. I knew I was going to be on this show, though, and I thought it's so fun watching people people actually change their looks over the course of the 39 days. And I figured I could actually grow a full head of hair in a semester. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
Yeah, that was like really jarring when there was that, flashback confessional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost didn't recognize you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex felt so confident he would make it to the end that
Yeah.
he thought, I'm going to shave my head because obviously I'll be there in the end with a full head of hair.
Of course.
And he was,
And it was.
Okay, so where do we want to start?
I want to start with why haven't we been on the podcast earlier? I'm
Yeah, we've been waiting
of
all
offended.
season for this.
Well,
What the hell?
we wanted to save you guys for the grand finale.
Mhm.
Right.
And
I
we-
tweet.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I DM'd you guys like very early on. I think after episode 6 or before episode 6, I was like, I should come on the next episode. Like, I'm gonna have a lot to say. No response. Just
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
Dead
we
silence.
definitely missed the DM. I checked.
I
on
did not
Twitter,
get that
and none of
DM.
us got it until you texted about it. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
that's
I'm
awesome.
sorry,
You
I'm
ghosted Alex
sorry.
Dahl.
it's all good. You're just having me on an episode
You
where I
at,
get voted out.
Nash, maybe we would have.
Yeah.
You could have told us in person, but.
I wish I was there. How was the finale party? I want to hear about that.
Oh,
yeah.
Only Jack was there.
Yeah.
I was.
Sam was there for about 20 minutes. No, but it was really fun. Like, especially because Liz and Brittany were there. And I obviously Cooper and stuff have been kind of producers in more recent seasons, but actually seeing Britt and Liz in person was really kind of weird to me because I've talked to them on the podcast. They were even a little bit of producers when I was in season, but now it's I've been just spent 13 hours of my life watching them on my laptop. And now all of a sudden here they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little starstruck, Jack.
Yeah, I was
For
very
sure.
starstruck.
Oh my gosh.
I actually when I saw Brittany come into the room, I shot my chair back and unplugged somebody's phone and their phone went flying and I'm like, sorry, I just wanted to see.
Oh man, Brittany was wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome in the season. We'll talk more about Brittany throughout the episode. But she got kind of a rough. I'll be honest, but we'll talk about that. Brittany is such a great person. So nice.
I think there's one place we have to start talking about if we're gonna kind of just jump right into this. You know what it's gonna have to be, Thal. It's gonna be the decision that you had to make at the very end of the last episode about whether you're gonna let Tarowski go to Rax or whether you're gonna send home Liz. So can you I know we got some more context in the episode, but a year later now, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to jump right into
No.
probably a very traumatizing question, but
I've been asked many times
It's
over the last couple of weeks.
Every day since, so not much to say.
Yeah, I've really manicured my answer down to the streamlined version of how to come across seeming not as much like an asshole as I really was, while simultaneously seeming like I cared about strategy at any moment in that. I mean there's a lot to it, I guess, but I just first of all, I didn't expect to be in that situation in the first place. Of course, this was everything went wrong scenario that I was in a position where I was all of a sudden choosing between my two allies. That's not generally how it works on Survivor, where you're especially when you only have two allies left in the game, that you have to decide which one that you want to vote out. This wasn't a final 2 and this was a final 3 scenario. This is just bizarre. I wanted to vote out Mitch and Brittany and Leia. So it was a position I never thought I would be in. And that's on me too, because I hadn't thought through this whole vote strategically. So I guess that's where I could start by just saying I was in a very bad headspace that whole week, especially after the last week, just lying to everybody for so long. And Tarowski can back me up on this, that I was just really tired of strategizing. And I remember that day of the leading up to the tribal council, I met with Brittany and Leia, and that's when this final plan sort of got hatched. And then I came back and sort of was we talked, me, Liz, and Tarowski, and made the decision to play the idol on me, that I was insistent on. And after that decision was made, I didn't want to think about it anymore, and I was sort of just done, because I just didn't think any more could come from strategizing. But really, I think I was just psychologically exhausted. If I had thought more about it, it would have been very obvious that she should play the idol on herself, for a million reasons that we can also get into. But I wasn't even thinking through the different scenarios. Tarowski definitely was, but I wasn't going down the path of oh, what if the votes aren't on me? What if they don't? What if they put 3 votes on Liz or on Tarowski? I wasn't really considering those scenarios in my head. So when it got down to it, I was oh my God. And then during that discussion period, I was thinking, I can't make that decision. I need to somehow convince Mitch and Brittany to flip on Leia, which was also never going to happen. So all of a sudden, I just had 10 seconds to make this decision. And with Liz, it was just, we had developed such a sincere, genuine relationship and friendship. You hear me in the beginning of the episode, I was happy to take her to the end, go far with her. I was never going to write her name down. It felt genuine in a way that I couldn't betray that. I wouldn't betray that. It became more than the game. But for all of that I had with Liz, I had that with Tarowski just 10 times more, or at least with I just had been doing that with him since the beginning of the game. We had been strategizing every single night together. And had a friendship that went back, 3 or 4 years. So it really came down to Tarowski and I, at some point in the middle of the game. I mean, at the beginning of the game, we said we're not going to write each other's names down. We're we're an alliance, whatever. But at some point in the middle of the season, I remember there was some night where we just went up to each other and we're this has become way more real. We know how important this is to each other. There may have been a time when we would have turned on each other, but that's not happening. I love you. This isn't we're in this together. And the game pushed us in a position where we could be together and we would never really have to turn on each other. Or so we thought. So it was just an impossible decision. And it came down to just one friendship or another.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, there was no strategy behind it. Also, clearly, people have been like trying to figure out like what strategically I was thinking to go down 3-2. I mean, it was that's obviously the wrong move on a strategic level. But I was just not thinking strategically at that point.
Oh, so you did say in the finale episode, Trotsky would kill and draw a rock,
and I would have.
Yeah.
Wait,
we've talked about this a lot since. He would have been so furious. Tell him.
Yeah, so we've played the scenario a bunch where he makes me go to rocks and I survive, and then we're going at each other at the final 5, which would have been way more exciting, probably. Yeah, as exciting as the finale already was, that could have happened.
So you're saying that instead of you two and Liz just kind of coasting to the final 3, you guys would have started taking shots at each other?
Well, I mean, if he made me go to rocks and betrayed that trust, then I would have, the trust would have been broken, and I would have started to think that I should not take Thal and Liz to the end on a strategic level because I have way less of a shot at beating them than the others. And so with that trust having already been broken, I would have definitely at least considered strongly flipping on them.
Wow. That would have been something to see.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but obviously that was never going to happen. And I also, if I was in Thal's position, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have never done anything to betray him.
Aw.
Yeah, no, it was definitely. I mean, it could have been interesting to see what would have happened if you had gone to rocks, but especially if you would have went out, that would have been very, very upsetting too. But I do think that what happened was still just really, really interesting and fun to watch. Just like that decision between Liz and Trotsky. I mean, really emotional. Obviously, and it was like portrayed that way in the edit, and I know that like in real life that had to have been so hard. I think as a viewer it was really, really intriguing to watch it all play out, because we've seen you two and your relationship kind of like develop over the whole course of the season. Now it's like kind of comes to a head here. So yeah, I think that definitely was a tough strategic choice, but like you said, it was really not as much about strategy.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I think that's like one of the big takeaways from playing the game is that like it does, I don't know, it's just very easy to watch on the sidelines from home and sort of like, backseat strategize for these players. But I think what's like so amazing about Survivor is that it's not just like a chess game where there's always like one correct strategic decision. It's like a human game, and like emotions do play into it. And it's like you're watching real people actually play out this thing, which is just which I think is what makes the show so great. And I think like a lot of recent CBS seasons have been like very heavily focused on strategy and not so much on the personal relationships. And I feel like the show is like worse off for that, because watching a bunch of game bots play ridiculously with no, loyalty or or at least that's the story we're being told, is that there's, very little loyalty and it's all strategy. It's like not as fun to watch.
No, I totally agree. I really love that, especially I think in last episode and this episode, where we especially got to see a lot of just like the emotional aspects of playing this game with people that like you start to develop friendships with, and all of a sudden it's not as easy to just do the best strategic move all the time. I think we definitely saw Mitch struggle with that a lot this episode, which we'll talk more about.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree on your other point too about like the backseat strategizing. It can be easy to watch it from home and say like, oh, so-and-so should have done this, but it's like it's tough.
But the viewer's not actually out there with you picking apples or kayaking down the river or anything like that.
Yeah.
Cutting the apples.
And we're not just out there filming those scenes just to get the scene. We were really out there picking apples. We went kayaking. That was happening.
There was more stuff we would be doing an activity like that, and then we would say, hey, this would be really fun to film a strategy scene while we're doing this.
Oh my gosh.
So we rip out the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, so was George just like always following you around? Like how did we get all this?
See the third one,
No, we would get friends to film, and George filmed a little bit.
We filmed with. I mean, we lived with 4 other boys, and a lot of times we would just do things together, and so they were always like game to film us, if we weren't annoying them too much already with too much strategy talk.
I bet I can only imagine living with you two. Like those guys must have heard so much Survivor talk that semester.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we heard Leia say that at the dinner table they weren't allowed to talk about Survivor. Her and Cooper. We definitely had we had that same rule very often.
No, we had it that we weren't allowed to talk about it in the house at all because we were annoying everyone so much with it.
Yeah.
I remember one of you had a confessional. I remember who it was about how I think it was you, Thal, about how Survivor is such a big part of our friendship now. That's like every conversation we have is somehow it ends up coming back to Survivor.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe it was Mutrowski.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
And after the game ended, if I remember, we for like a month or so, or even more, we made a concerted effort to not.
Yeah.
Because we were both so burnt out.
Yeah, we had to stop talking about it. It was just
it's just taken up way too much of our lives.
Yeah.
And the fact that we just always had someone to talk to about, and I'm sure Cooper and Leia went through the same thing, but a lot of the strategizing you do with people who, you're not roommates with is an hour here, an hour there, maybe phone calls, maybe when it's really tough, you're texting them a lot. But, we just lived together. We did so many things together. So it was constant and way too much.
And I have kind of a question on that, because I know with Coop and Leia, there were definitely things that they weren't really honest to each other about. Like, I'm trying to think back. Was there any point in the season where you lied to each other, or you weren't being 100% honest?
No, I never once told him a lie. And back to what we were talking about before, was there ever, even in the beginning, a chance to flip on each other? I remember in my first confessional, George didn't put this in the show, but I said something along the lines of there may be a chance that one day we have to turn on each other, and I have to make sure I'm the first one to do it. But I mean, just a few days into it, it was very clear that I would never have it in me to do that, both on a strategic level, because having someone you can trust 100% like we did with each other is just so valuable, and it would never make sense to get rid of that. But also, we both knew how much we were both into this and how much it meant. And yeah, I would have never done anything to.
We also had a deal that if we made it to the jury stage and one of us turned on each other, then the other one had full right to just absolutely bury the person to the jury and just do everything in their power to make them lose.
Yeah.
It's what you call too close.
Yeah, well, it definitely benefited you guys in the game. It got you the final 5 together. I think that a lot of viewers were I think it was a lot of people would not have been able to predict that you would both be in the final 5, by the merge.
Yeah.
It seemed like the odds were stacked against you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when we lost the majority at the merge vote. I think neither of us were expecting that would happen, or that either of us could pull out a win.
I could not believe that Angela and Akshay, those 2 votes those two went home instead of.
We should probably talk about that, because I do think that looking back at the game, and we've discussed this a lot, Trowski and I offline, but as far as some of the best moves in the game, some of the worst moves in the game, I think it's hard to say that keeping us around instead of Angela and Akshay is not one of the worst moves. Just after what happened, keeping 2 big threats, I totally understand what they were thinking, and I think Liz also made the correct moves, because she really actually did need the buffers. But their thought process was always, let's keep these threats around so that we stay together, and so that we don't have no one has any motivation to flip on the Maison 5. But they're saying that, and then at the final 7, literally every single one of them is planning to flip on each other at the final 7 with using these big threats supposedly. So I think that's it was a huge blunder on a lot of their parts.
Sorry to cut you off, but not in the final 7. They really were only Liz was using me a little bit, but no one still even wanted to get me in on their plans. So if they weren't going to do that at the final 7 anyway, them not voting me out at the final 8 really kind of is shocking, I think.
I think that the way it was kind of portrayed was a lot of like, it was Liz kind of saying, well, let's get rid of Akshay because Akshay will be a GOAT and blah, blah, blah. She had this kind of argument about Akshay being kind of like a pawn that she didn't want to be. She basically had it as like this getting rid of Akshay will unify us against the threats. And she kind of had the ulterior motive too of keeping around the threats.
Right.
But I guess I could see it from like Liz's perspective, kind of like you were saying.
Definitely.
I guess like it seems like every individual episode, I can like kind of see what happened and understand why it happened. Yeah. But looking at all of them in sequence and seeing how it ended up, it's like, wow, it's hard to believe.
Yeah,
and I remember you guys saying
how well Liz played that final 8. She totally got her way with them, and it's really impressive, honestly, how she was able to get everyone to vote out the person that it was in no one's best interest to vote out.
Yeah, for sure.
Liz played brilliantly.
She was very talented.
Very talented. Yeah, speaking of Mitch, though, he was saying after Tribal that Thal's decision to flip was utterly shocking.
Yeah. Very shocking.
But he said it was a good move because you saved your closest ally and the one girl that he thought you guys wanted to bring to the end, which was Brittany.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that take. I think it was a pretty bad move.
I heard it. I was hearing him say that, and I was like, it's like, honestly, I can see how this is actually a good strategic move. And I was like, I mean, that's an interesting take, but
yeah, I think that's, we can get more to this later because I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about Mitch's overall game. But I think, really the problem is he did always have power between him and Leia. They just consistently made the wrong move with that power.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think those two votes,
but
those two votes, 8 and 9, were bad. I mean, we can go into all the nitty gritty, I guess. But I mean, I think they played the final 6, excellently. Like Leia explained on the podcast, they completely pulled the wool over my eyes.
Definitely. I guess that might have been too harsh what I'm saying, but like I just that when you do have that much power in votes 9, votes 8, votes 7, like
I would say they made the incorrect move too many times. Yeah. That more was
they were really good at making that incorrect move. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to say how, and I guess we'll talk more about this too. The Mitch and Leia relationship, I think, is a little bit underrated as far as like how important it was and how I think it brought both of them so far. It really was a difference in how they were able to make it past a lot of the other Maisons, really, other than all the way up until the end.
For sure. The reason that Thal's plans in the final 7 and the final 6 didn't work is because we had no idea how closely they were working together. And if we had kind of that missing puzzle piece, we would have been able to make better decisions then. Yeah, I agree.
100%.
All right, so let's move on to the challenge after the Liz vote. So you guys have done a lot of challenges for now. I was just curious, like, which one has been your favorite one that you did?
I mean, Paul, you weren't there, but it has to be more, right?
Yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah, it was hours and hours and hours long. And it was for the title of Sole Survivor. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
What about you, Thal?
I loved the Final 7 challenge, the questions. There's like a specific name for that someone was that I heard?
Touchy subject.
Oh, that one's a fun one.
I didn't know that had a specific name. I like that one a lot.
So were you actually throwing the challenge on purpose?
I did throw it, and it's funny that people because I thought wow, I'm really throwing this a little too hard. Like 1 question right out of 10. This is really very obvious, but it seems like not a lot of people picked up on it. So I was throwing it, but that was really fun. It was also fun because answering the questions correctly sometimes reveals what you think of people, and a lot of them were, especially near the end, just sort of rude and stuff. So I was happily getting things wrong, so I wasn't pissing people off too.
I think that's a good strategy. I think that's an interesting way to play it. But speaking of immunities, let's get into the final 5 immunity challenge. taking place right after the vote. Your fellas still distressed from the vote. Now you have to turn right around and go to the immunity challenge.
Yeah, that sucked. I hated the challenge after the. I mean, it made sense logistically, but it was so frustrating because I was still reeling, especially at this one. I was completely reeling and not like thinking through anything with any, like you sometimes just need time after this stuff to just deal with like the repercussions game wise. So it was like I was not in a good headspace, especially for like a memory challenge where you're trying to like remember all these numbers, and meanwhile I'm like having like this emotional fallout in my brain. Like I can't think of numbers right now.
No, for sure. But you and Tarasi were working together on this one, right?
Yeah, we both, I think, gave each other one of the 5 numbers, if I'm correct.
Okay.
I do regret that. Mitch a couple weeks ago texted me and he was like, "Why did you throw that challenge?" And I was like, "I didn't throw the challenge, but it was like on a strategic level pretty dumb." I think I was in a space of like, because I not only had just totally absolutely screwed over Liz, but I'd also completely, ruined me and Tarowski's games. Like all of a sudden we're in a minority, we're going to get picked off 1-2. And I felt really guilty to him as well.
No, you saved me. That you didn't need to feel guilty.
I saved you, but it was my decision for her to play the idol on me. Like I take full blame for that. I should probably make that more clear that like, I should explain how that all went down, but
because how did that happen?
Sure.
I don't think we got a lot of it in the episode.
Yeah, the episode, I think, like, George wants to sort of leave things up in the air, so we don't know what's going to happen. So there was, like, a few things left out, but as Leia described on the podcast, we had sort of discussed earlier in the week, let's try and make Liz feel as safe as possible, in this, like, 2-2-2 version of the game, so that she doesn't play her idol, and then we'll meet back up at the end of the week and see if, we still want to do this and try and vote her out. So on the last day before Tribal Council, Brittany calls me and says, "Come over, let's talk." So I talked to her and Leia, and they convinced me that Mitch was voting for me and that they wanted to vote with me and vote out Liz, which would basically be a 3-2-1 majority. And I said, "Okay, great, let's do it." So then in my head, I was thinking, it felt genuine to me at the time. You really didn't see Brittany and my relationship throughout the show. Like that's another part that sort of got edited out for time. But like we were pretty close and really wanted to work together for a lot of weeks in a row. And so there was like that sort of relationship going into it. And she sounded really genuine to me. So I was thinking there's like a 90% chance they're just telling me the straight up truth and that I can go along with them. In which case we don't need the idol because they're not voting together with Mitch. And the three of us will have, me, Liz, and Tarasi will have the majority. And then I was thinking there's a 10% chance that they're completely lying to me, in which case they are voting with Mitch and they're just trying to toss my vote away from Liz and Tarowski's, in which case they wouldn't be voting for the person that they told me they were voting for. They're probably trying to vote for me. So in this 10% chance, I was thinking Liz should play the idol on me. And I explained this to Tarowski and Liz, and they got on board with it, but it was definitely my decision. And as you heard from Leia, this was all literally the exact plan that they had laid out there. So they had like totally tricked me, but it was totally my decision. And I think at the end of the day, part of me was also like, kind of just wanted the idol to be played on me. Like there was definitely some part of that. And I think like being fully honest, I felt like the final 7 Tribal Council like went so far away from like what I wanted it to be. And I was thinking, God, the jury's like just not going to respect or realize like the game that I'm playing. But if Liz plays her idol for me, hey, they'll see that I was really actually sort of like on top of the ball more socially, and like we had the secret alliance, and that would be more proven. So I think somewhere in my brain that was also playing a role. But regardless, I was the one sort of like dictating the decision because I was the one with the information. I was like playing both sides, not Tarowski or Liz. And so it was my fault. And so I did screw you over, Tarowski, as I screwed myself over, in the sense that like by making that incorrect strategic decision, we were now on the bottom when we were, so close.
But it's also my fault for trusting that. Like I had 100% confidence in your intuition and your decision. I probably didn't think it was necessary for us to play the idol on you, but I trusted that if it was what you really wanted to do, then we should do it. And so it's not 100% your fault is what I'm saying. Like it was your idea, yes, but I also agreed to it, and Liz also did it. She played the idol for you, so it's all three of us.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
I would say more than both of you is honestly, I personally put a lot of blame on Liz for like it's her idol, and she trusted. I mean, it was her. She was the one that trusted your intuition. I think it makes almost more sense, Strowski, for you to trust Thal's intuition, given that you'd played the entire game together and knew each other for that long, whereas Liz had like known you for a lot less time, but trusted your intuition just as much and was willing to give up her own idol. So that's, it was tough. I can also feel like it's definitely a lot of the blame still does go on Liz for that.
And I think, also a lot of it's not just blame, but just credit to Leia and Mitch for just playing that perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
And Brittany. Brittany is definitely in there too.
Sorry.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the three of them played that about just as perfect as they could.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyway,
I was too harsh on them earlier. I think that they are really good at doing it, like at playing Survivor and getting people on their side. I just think that they made the wrong decisions.
Sure.
But
really just a couple crucial points in the game.
Yeah, we get into those too.
Yeah.
Just to finish the thought, regardless of how the blame should be, where it should fall, I was feeling very, very guilty, and I was thinking that I had, just screwed over Tarowski's game as well, and I was thinking, like, we're in this to the end. Like, if I'm going to be 100% loyal to him, then we should be giving each other answers, obviously, like not really thinking that, him winning immunity would probably be the single worst thing for my game at that moment.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Do you think that if
You're welcome.
do you think if anybody else had won immunity that you would have been voted out instead, Tarowski?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, after you win immunity, I feel like the main strategy this week was the Alexes were kind of pulling Brittany to flip on Mitch and Leia. And I think the rationale was that, the perception is that, like, you were dragged to this point. And, like, I think someone was saying, like, this is your chance to turn on the people who have been condescending to you, who have been, like, disregarding you. And then Mitch and Leia's play was for the three of them to, like, just stay strong like they have been and to vote off Thal. Did I understand that correctly? Is that like kind of what was happening that week?
Yeah, that's what we tried to come to her very delicately because, like, if I was afraid that if we came off condescending or like in any way, then she would just say, "Screw you, I'll vote out Thal." Because what we were arguing to her was that you've been dragged along by these two people, so. This is your only time to make your move, where if you say that the wrong way, it can come off very rude. But as in hindsight, knowing it didn't work, I think we should have been way more aggressive.
Yeah, I was curious, though. Did you actually think that Brittany was dragged at that point? Or did you just...
whether or not we even thought that, it kind of was the narrative. It was what everyone was talking about. Was that was the perception.
Okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was merit to what we were saying, I think. But in the end, I do think she made the right decision, because I think if the final three would have been the three Maisons, I think there's a very good chance she would have won. Which we can maybe get into later.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, that's interesting, because I was almost wondering if she had gone with you two, if you guys would kind of take votes from each other, and she'd have a chance to get some of the Maison votes, so she'd be the only one in the finals.
Well, I don't think that would have been the case. But yeah, maybe. I mean, we didn't see that scenario play out, so we can't say for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows?
So Mitch is speaking on the situation on how he just needs the Alex is gone. He's kind of getting the Britney fever. We just need to get rid of Tarowski. Tarowski just needs to be voted out. I've been saying it all along that Tarowski just cannot make it to the end.
And she's right.
She was right.
She was saying
not let Tarowski get to the end.
Brittany has been the voice of reason for a very long time. She is, I think, one of the most perceptive people.
Yeah, she's woke.
And Brittany, Mitch is saying too that Tarowski from Chicago is not
going to win based on popularity. If I'm going to win, it's going to be based on gameplay and strategy. I would be so guilty if we lost to an Alex.
That was just the most ironic thing ever, that he had that line.
Oh my gosh. I would be guilty if we lost to an Alex.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Second most ironic line after him literally saying this episode, I will never write Leia's name down.
Oh,
yeah. That I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh. It was like literally in captions too, like in bold, on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I thought George was just gonna like hold on that image and zoom in for a while and like,
oh my god.
There's also we missed this one, but there was Liz a few episodes ago when she found the idol saying, "I will never play this on someone else."
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I really felt horrible when I watched that back.
The foreshadowing is great. That's that credit to George for finding those scenes and throwing them in there, because of the things you don't catch right away, but you think about it later. You're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we get like I think one of the funniest moments of you guys of this whole season. So Thal is like on his bed in the middle of a super intense confessional. There's like music, and then all of a sudden the music stops. And there's like dramatic knocking on the door. And then what happens, Jack?
Trowski, you barge in with diapers. And they don't fit.
Yeah, I got baby diapers.
What kind of mistake is that?
I've never bought diapers before, and so I just grabbed the first ones I saw, and they were baby diapers by mistake. So they didn't fit.
You didn't get the Pens adult undergarment?
No, but I know for next time.
Okay.
No,
next time.
Oh.
Are you going to an All-Stars?
I'll keep my mouth shut, but I am graduated, if that comes the way.
Wait, what did you ever do with the diapers? I'm curious.
Did you wear diapers for that?
No, it didn't fit. I didn't wear it.
No.
So very shortly before we left, so I didn't have time to get more. But now, I think they just sat in my room until the end of the year when I came out.
Hey, when
that is true.
Someday, you'll be able to say these diapers are very special diapers. They've been on YouTube.
They've been on Paul's head.
Okay, yeah. Well, one of them went to use because Thal wore it as a hat. Another fashion icon statement from the Alex.
Oh, the fashion icon curse.
I'm always trying to up my hat game in this show, so.
Oh shoot, you're right. Yeah, so we get this really nice confessional of you guys. Like, Thal has a diaper on his head. Tarowski's arm is around Thal. You guys are talking about how you've been married, battling through this journey.
Terrible metaphor. My like, that's the kind of stuff I need cut out, George, for future reference.
I think Tarowski was like, you know how many holes we've fit?
Yeah,
whoa. You're just fueling the fan fiction, guys. Like, this is all on you. I feel like.
Hey guys, did you ever answer the question?
You did. They've been avoiding it.
Guys, no. I just want to know if you guys are single.
You mean with each other?
No.
Are you dating each other?
No, not just that. Just in general.
I'm not single.
Neither am I.
Oh, shoot. All right, there you
Actually,
go.
my girlfriend is watching right now and is the finale and texting me. And she just texted, Tarowski in this suit, I'm dead. She said, everyone is so soft in this ep, which is so true. This is such an emotional episode.
It is emotional.
Oh my god.
Yeah, boys make me sad.
They do.
Make me cry. Cry.
No, boys make me sad.
Ew, I was sad.
It is?
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay. Is there anything you want to talk about before the final 5 tribal?
How likely do you think that you were gonna survive this Thal? Were you thinking that Brittany was gonna flip, or
Brittany was? I was pretty I did not think she was going to. My conversation with her went well, and it seems like she was really thinking it over afterwards. But again, it was sort of for me, it was a more personal kind of thing. Cause like I said, we just been talking throughout the entire game. And I think she sort of came to me somewhat as a confidant, a non-Maison person to talk about her dealings with Maison, because she would always say they talk over me. They, don't listen to my opinion. They'll end up deciding to do what I said to do, but not give me credit and all this stuff. And that sort of perception was really dictatorial of how she was playing the game. The perception for her came before the game. And that's sort of what I was asking her in the final tribal council. was that like she was making all the same decisions and she like was doing things. She didn't have the secret alliance, but she was like totally a part of everything, and she never really got credit for it. And so I was trying to come to her as like, you know, like, hey, we're like equals here, we're partners, like what can we do, like how can we turn this around? And that was like the best possible pitch that Tarowski and I could think of. And unfortunately it didn't happen, but I think there was a chance, but it just didn't go our way, and maybe we could have done better.
At the time, I didn't think there was much of a chance, but after the fact, George has told us that she was really close to voting with us, actually. But,
I mean, she did say that. Like, she went to bed thinking one thing, she woke up thinking another, you know?
Yeah, it is interesting that I didn't realize that she was that close to flipping, but it makes sense why she would consider it, you know?
Another layer to that vote was that Leia and Mitch, I don't know if Brittany was, but Leia and Mitch were convinced that idol, that because at the Final Five challenge there was, I guess, a cone flipped over, and so they were scared that there was an idol under that cone. Another one had been planted, and so they thought that just whoever me and Thal voted out was going to go home, whoever we voted for. And so that's why Leia and Mitch were kind of both coming to us trying to save themselves at the Final Five, because they thought that we might have all the power. And I think in hindsight, we could have really played that better, kind of the fear that we might have an idol. Is there any chance we can get one of them to flip if we convince them that they're going to go home if they don't? I mean, I kind of regret not doing that.
Yeah, I was wondering if there would be a chance that you could tell them, like, to vote out Brittany or something, or to, like you could pull out another fake idol.
Yeah, go back to Amazon, find a new
We actually had another one.
Yeah, we won.
You bought two, right?
Yeah, and I even brought it to that tribal council and that challenge. I think I was just bringing it around everywhere at that point, because, like, why not? And we had the idol, like, little paper from Tarowski's old idol, one of them. So I had that in there too. I don't know. What do you guys think? I've thought about this so much. If there was any way we could use like the fear of an idol to, because at the end of the day, we still need one of them to vote, at least one of them to vote against the others. So it would be really difficult to just keep that.
A plan that I've thought about a few weeks ago. I don't know if this is way too crazy to pull off, but we could have told Brittany, we have an idol. We're going to put one vote on you and one vote on one of them, probably Leia. And so it's going to be a tie. If you vote for Thal with them, those votes are going to be canceled. It's going to be a tie, in which case they're going to vote you out. Or you can vote with us on that other person and save yourself.
So,
that's brilliant.
I think the problem with that plan is that she would be like, okay, because obviously they're thinking there's a possibility the idol's fake, and she would be like, wait a minute, why wouldn't they just put 2 votes on one of us if they have the idol?
My rebuttal to that is that we want the person that we go to the final 3 with to get their hands dirty and vote out one of their own. And so that's why we're doing it. Again, it's a huge long shot, but it's something I thought of.
I mean, I think maybe if Brittany's already really close to voting with you guys, that might have pushed her over the edge. And it's been like, you know, at least I know this way of what's going to happen. If I do vote for Thal, I don't know what is going to end up happening.
Right. I just don't know if Brittany responds well to that kind of...
That's true.
She has a strong arm, kind of like, pull with us or else. Like, I don't know. I think that is maybe the only situation in which it could have worked to use like a fake idol. Because I think that Mitch and Leia would have... I think it'd be very tough to have gotten them to flip on each other.
So you've gotten like maybe Mitch to flip on Brittany? Like, what if they went to Mitch with that pitch? Because I feel like Mitch is the snitch who would enjoy the pitch to maybe be the bitch. And
I think in that case though, Mitch would think, why would they want to get rid of Brittany instead of me? And he might also think that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could say like, hey, Mitch, we're putting 1 vote on Leia, 1 on Brittany. You got to get your hands dirty now. Like.
But we also didn't know about Leia and Mitch back then at the final
five. But who really cares? Yeah. I mean, he would have to vote out one of them, but he would probably end up just telling them about it or something, or maybe telling Leia, and then Leia maybe would be like, "I'll just put a vote on Brittany."
Maybe
if we'd stirred up enough craziness, there was just not a lot of time at this point. Like there used to I think at this point the vote offs were going early, like faster and faster because we were like approaching the end of the semester.
Final 6, 5, and 4 were in 3 consecutive days.
No.
Wow.
No, there was
maybe like 3 and 5 days, something like that, but they were definitely all right next to each other.
Yeah, that's true.
That's tough. All that to say, I do think that you were just in a really tough spot. There wasn't really a ton I think you could have done at that point at all. And get through tribal, and yeah, I really don't think that there's a ton more you could have done. Yeah, I think we can debate the hypotheticals for a long time, and maybe a fake idol thing could have. But I also think like you guys have been through so much by that point, and you maybe it wasn't even possible for you to like have thought of this plan. You just said, Trust, you thought of this plan like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So maybe back then there's just so much happening, and
it's taking you a year to think of this. So.
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was just a tough spot, and I think we both knew that we were screwed at the final 5 vote. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we put sort of all of our eggs in that final 6 in like the basket of like us 2 and Liz to the end. And when that fell through, it was just like we gotta win immunity, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So Thal, after you're voted out, unfortunately, were you thinking did you think that Tarowski was for sure going to be like the next one to go?
Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking, God, this guy has to win immunity, must win immunity. Like, please, God. Because I was also thinking about at this point on like a more, I'd like taking a step back and was seeing it on like a season level. And as much as I love Mitch and Leia and Brittany, I think on like a season arc, like story arc level, I think it's just so much more satisfying for the underdogs to pull it out, especially in this case. And like Tarowski had just gotten through so many votes, so if he could pull it out, it would just be so much more satisfying, I felt like, for viewers. And so I was like rooting for him on that level too.
I don't know if this is the right place to talk about this, but who would you both have voted for in that hypothetical universe where Tarowski goes home and it's a Maison Final 3?
Thal, you want to start?
Sure. We discussed this quite a bit.
Infinitely.
Yeah. So, well, I should maybe explain like what happened right after I got voted out, because that's kind of a fun little story. Which is that the 4 of them immediately went on to go do this challenge, but I went and joined the jury, which was super sympathetic to my situation, and they were so nice and like welcoming. Liz and I got a chance to like finally talk things out a little more. As we would continue to do over the months, and I'm assuming years from now. But immediately, Cooper told me all about Leia and Mitch's relationship, and he was just going so hard trying to convince people that Leia was playing this brilliant game, and I was just like, oh wow, because I didn't know. It was kind of a huge deal, and like I was like mind blown because Leia played such an seemingly under the radar game. Like she did such a good job. She was like a ninja. Like she was like really making so many great moves and doing all this stuff. But she did it through these proxies of Mitch and Cooper a lot of the time. And she also had Brittany like completely under her belt the whole time. It seemed like, I mean, Brittany never went against her once. So, and she had, Cam, which, who got blindsided, but she had so many people who were doing her bidding and who trusted, where she was their number one. And meanwhile, like, I had never really even considered her as, like, that huge of a threat. So on a strategic level, I was, like, pretty floored with learning after the fact. Like, after I got voted out, learning that someone else was really on top of so much of this stuff. So I, at that point, was going to vote for Leia if she had gotten to the end against Mitch and Brittany.
And for me, it's way more complicated. I was never going to vote for Leia. So this really didn't make the show at all, but me and Leia definitely had a little rivalry throughout the game. And whereas, I had other rivalries such as Cooper and Akshay, which were strategic and which were in good fun in like the name of the game, and I still really liked them as people. Me and Leia's rivalry was purely personal. And I also want to preface this by saying I do not feel this way at all anymore. I think she's great. I think she's hilarious. I wish I got to talk to her more both during and after the game. And I don't feel this way anymore at all. But if there was any way I could have taken a win away from her, I would have done it. And if sorry, that's but it was true at the time. And so in talks I've had with people after the game and also during, me and Liz talked a lot during like the final 6 and 7 about how this was kind of a nightmare. Neither of us wanted to vote for any of them, but Liz was saying how she probably would have voted for Brittany. And if there was a Brittany push, I would have gotten on board. And I think that's actually what would have happened. I think me and Liz would have voted for Brittany. I think that Kara would have voted for Brittany. And then at that point, I don't really know who Akshay and Angela would have voted for. But Leia gets Cooper and Thal, and then it kind of comes down to Akshay and Angela. I haven't really spoken to either of them about who they would have voted for in that scenario. But also, another reason I would have maybe been leaning toward Brittany is because I was a Neela through and through. I loved Neela. I think that Neela was this...
Well, you're blue, Neela, too.
I think that Neela was this amazing group of quirky and unique and fun-loving people. I thought from a viewer's perspective, I was just rooting for them as a fan of the game. I thought, Maison was like this army, like emotionless. All of their votes were unanimous. Ew. I didn't want them to win, and I kind of, at the time, speaking more on how the perception was that Brittany was kind of not in on all the Maison decisions. I think that I would have voted for her as kind of a protest against Maison, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in the end, I think it's probable that I would have voted for Brittany, but there's also a chance I would have voted for Mitch. Not ruling that out, but I can't say for sure because we didn't see that scenario play out.
And who knows? Like maybe somebody would have bombed at Final Tribal in that scenario.
Yeah, I also not knowing about the Leia and Mitch relationship, I kind of really didn't see much differentiation between the three of them in their strategy at the time, and so it could have just been if any of the three of them really blew me away at Final Tribal, maybe I just would have voted for that person. But again, I can't say if that would have happened or not.
All right, so we're not at Final Tribal yet. We still have Community Challenge to go through before we get there.
Yes.
I honestly believe this is an iconic Final Immunity Challenge.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. It's harkens back to the old Hand on the Idol from season 1 of Borneo, and it's been in a lot of other seasons too. But this one is a hand on Bo Schembeckler.
Yeah, we have in parentheses, explain who this hoe is.
George was like obsessed with this guy, and I literally don't remember anything about him, but George...
He was the coach of Michigan football.
Thal is not a
cool
guy.
Legend.
Yeah.
Not the one that
Oh, yeah. Someone said, last episode, I can't believe neither of the Alexes are good at beer pong or something like that. I'm the worst at beer pong, and I know nothing about sports, and, I'm so far from... I don't play video games.
Wow. Who are you?
Okay. I feel like you play video games, but okay.
I feel like you do play video games and you're just lying.
No, he does. I can attest that whenever anyone in the house was playing Fortnite, Thal was not in the room. And anytime we had a sports conversation, it was as if he was hearing a Survivor conversation from someone else in the house's view. Yeah, he wanted nothing to do with it ever.
Oh, man.
But yeah, this was iconic because he was the coach that said those who stay will be champions, right?
Yeah.
And it's perfect for this challenge because those who stay on whatever or stay in will be champions.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I did not stay.
That's really the champion. But
you stayed longer than Brittany and Leia did. So
what time did the challenge start and when did it end?
I think it went from 9-ish to 2-ish, if I remember correctly. It was about 5 hours.
Okay.
all right.
And this was when we get some insider info from from George about the jury people who came to watch.
I like curious Joe. This is it. This is the last one. The last Keep Your Torch Lit podcast for Victor's Valiant. The last Jane Sider information. And I just can't believe that we're here right now. Like, I cannot believe that you guys took this amazing journey with me. Thank you so much for having this fan podcast to go along with the actual show. It's something that I got to talk about with my friends who also listen to the podcast. So just, shout out to Keep Your Torch Lit in general. But we're here for some Jane Sider information. I have a million things I could talk about in terms of the game, in terms of the characters, the people themselves, and I'll save those for maybe the Q&As and all the exit interviews I'll do. But for you guys, a little bit of a funny insider information would definitely be when the jury showed up to the final immunity challenge. We got to briefly see this actually in the episode, but it was one of the funniest things that I've ever been a part of. They just rolled up in this car. I think it was like the entire jury, and Thal's recording it, acting like, oh, we're supposed to be recording still, right? Like, this is Ponderosa videos. And oh my God, like, I wish I had recorded the entire conversation, because I was out there basically doing the challenge with these guys because it's cold as heck and I'm out there. I'm just not touching onto Bo Schembechler. And so when I got into that car, I wanted to stay there. Like, it was warm in there. And I was recording these people. All of my batteries on my phones and cameras were dying. I had to swap to my laptop at one point because not only were we taking so long, I think it ended up being like 4.5, 5 hours, but everything was dying because it was so cold. So hopefully you can talk to the Alexes about this, caravan of jury members coming up. But it was so funny to talk to them all specifically after everything. Obviously, we didn't do any game talk. That would have been unfair to the players. But it was so funny seeing, Cooper and Akshay back together, Liz and Thal actually on the same page again. It was, oh my God. God, I love that jury so much. And it was funny to escape from my hosting duties for a moment as they came up. So there's a little bit of tidbit you get. In terms of everything else, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun just to send these little messages in, and I appreciate everything you guys have done.
Wait, so Thal, were you part of that?
Oh yeah, I was totally there. I was part of the van.
Did you guys?
Well,
did you guys have bets?
Bets on who was gonna? No, I mean we all just we were all just talking about it a lot, and we were talking about everything that happened so far. I think we all drove to Pizza House and got milkshakes, and we're just just going over everything, and then we decided to come back and look out the window and watch, and then we ended up calling George inside. It was a ball. It was the best way to get voted out. I was so it was so nice, and it just felt like it was the nicest cushion ever. And I don't know, there's something to be said for lying to and manipulating a bunch of people in the game, and then all of a sudden all of that being lifted off your shoulders and not having to do any of that anymore was the best relief. Except I guess I still hadn't admitted that we were roommates, but that was the final lie.
Yeah.
The final one. It's been an hour. All 4 people are still there, and George comes up with the first person to drop out within the next 5 minutes will get an opportunity.
An opportunity.
Ooh.
What could an opportunity be at Final Four at this point?
Yeah, what
were you thinking,
I was thinking that there's no way this is an actual advantage. There's no way I was going to get off the statue for that. I mean, in the Final Four, there's no more idols. There's no more anything. I thought for sure it was going to be some sort of trick. But also, I mean, I think Leia knew that also. But she had I don't remember exactly, but she had a paper due at midnight or.
Leia had an exam the
right.
next day, so she really needed to get her sleep.
She was gonna drop down anyway, so she might as well see if this could on a long shot be anything.
Leia decides to drop off, and what does she get? There's a big
drum
roll. It is a bag of pretzels right out of George's backpack.
I love that.
And Leia,
pretty salty.
oh,
Good one.
Oh man. To be fair, it's a pretty big bag of pretzels.
Yeah. And they were good pretzels. They're the flat kinds.
Yeah, those are very good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of opportunity that is. I guess it's maybe an opportunity to feed your allies while they're standing there. I don't know. I don't understand how that's an opportunity.
An opportunity to have a little snack.
She did leave the bag there for us all to snack on.
Oh.
She didn't give me any hand warmers, but she did give me pretzel chips.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of builds in more of that rivalry you're talking about. I kind of missed. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah,
it's funny.
It also,
but,
I think, made the Final Four challenge, the tiebreaker challenge, way more intense in the moment. Is that it was me and Leia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I'm a little upset the viewers didn't get to see fully.
Yeah.
We have another story about Leia and the pretzels. Well, we'll preface this with Sarah. I think you have a story about what are your first memory of Leia?
Yeah,
ever?
so basically I met Leia. We were like 5 and 7 at a summer camp, and like I remember her so well because every time she ate like a bag of chips, she would rip the bag open like super viciously and then lick the inside. So we always make fun of her for this. She would lick everything on the inside. Okay,
so last night, a group of us had gone to Live, one of the bars in Ann Arbor, and this is just a couple days after we'd all watched the finale. I think it's just the day after, and I went up to Leia and I go, Leia, I just have one question for you. And she's like, what is it? What's the question? What's up? And I say, did you lick the inside of the bag after you'd eaten those pretzels? And what she did is she had her drink in her hand. And I think the drink was gone, but she still had all the ice. And she dumped all the ice down my shirt.
So she's still very, very salty about those.
Salty about the pretzels.
Leia, I don't know if Leia will ever get over this game.
No, I don't think so. No.
Well, I'm pretty sure she told me that Tarowski, that you sent her a Snapchat of hand warmers.
Oh yeah,
multiple times.
I think I did that a few times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my
Savage.
Leia is very competitive. I mean, you can speak to that.
Oh,
She's been competitive since she was 7 years old. Right?
Oh, for sure. What's that game, like red light, green light?
Yeah.
No, we were so competitive of that. It was cutthroat.
Tarowski, tell the story of when she was over at our house for like a party or something in the hand warmers.
Oh fuck! I'm kind of. This may be a little spotty, but it was something along the lines of This was either my birthday party in February or it was like an after party after the show, something like that. And I got everyone together and I was like, "Hey Leia, I want to make a truce between the two of us, and so I got you a little present." And I went upstairs to my room and I got it and I came down and I gave her a pack of hand warmers.
Oh my god!
And then
how did she react? Yeah,
I gave them to her and she threw them back at me.
No, she ran outside and threw them onto the street.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so
that sounds like Leia.
I have this hilarious
horrible
image in my head of her doing this.
It was only 70% Leia before. This is 100%.
That was 100% Leia.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the challenge. Leia has dropped out, and how long after that was it before Brittany dropped out?
Yeah, Brittany was having some inner conflict. She was like, I'm not gonna win, but something inside of me doesn't want to like drop and not win this challenge.
If I remember correctly, Brittany wanted to make it to midnight, and so shortly after midnight she dropped.
Okay.
She must have known that she wasn't.
You can't overstate how long Brittany was standing there saying, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to drop, but I should, but I don't think I should," and just going back and forth for you see me kind of give an eye roll at the camera at one point, and that was after literally maybe like 25-30 minutes of her talking out loud, going back and forth on that decision.
No, my gosh.
I don't know if I want to drop. I just really don't want to roast. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can win, but
I need to beat
Tarowski to drop first.
Oh, well, she ends up dropping, and then it's just you and our Midwestern boy Mitch, the East Coast kingpin / public enemy #1, and Midwest Mitch.
The Ross.
Did he ever call his mom during the challenge to
not sure.
encouragement?
I did hear a few phone calls after all the tribals, but not. I think he was in game mode while we were on that stage.
So we get to the deal.
The art of the deal.
So basically,
they both read that ahead of this tribal council. I mean, this challenge.
So basically, Mitch goes, Tarowski, if you drop, I'll vote for Leia, and then you guys can just battle it out. How long did it take him to convince you that he was
So this wasn't in the show, but he gave me, it was either 2 hours or 2.5 hours, but he gave me a time limit to accept the offer before it expired. And I hung out there kind of thinking it through until probably like 10 minutes left in that offer.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you take the offer because you thought you couldn't beat him? Like, why did you?
I was absolutely freezing fucking cold.
Oh yeah. How cold was it? Like, what was the situation?
I don't know exactly, but it was really, really cold.
Was it December by this point?
Yeah, this is like right before winter break.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Mitch said, "Oh, it's not even that cold at all. I'm totally fine."
Yeah.
Also, at the very beginning, like when you're out there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like, he had hand warmers. Though.
Yeah, and he had hand warmers. Exactly.
Wow, it's not even that tough. It's easy. Piece of cake with hand warmers, obviously.
Yeah.
Piece of apple pie.
Piece of apple pie.
So I, of course, would have, if I didn't take the deal, I would have held on as long as humanly possible. However, Mitch just seemed so rock solid and unfazed that I thought, but my thinking was, it took me a really long time to accept the offer. And my thought process was, if he's telling the truth, then I have a 50% chance at beating Leia at whatever the tiebreaker challenge is. And the way it's going right now, me being as cold as I am and as tired as I am, and him, at least on the surface, looking like he's never, ever, ever going to step down, I had under a 50% chance at beating him. So, assuming there's a 100% chance he's telling the truth, my odds are better if I step down and go against Leia at the tiebreaker.
No, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, and it is taking the risk that he is 100%.
Yeah, and it took
not going to go back in his word.
Yeah, and it took me a really long time to get a read on him, and just talk him through it, ask him questions before I could decide whether or not he was telling me the truth. But in the end, I really believed he was, and so I made that decision.
Yeah.
So you shook on it, and he said,
shook.
"Oh, whoa there! I see what you're doing. You're trying to make me drop off here, and I'm not going to do that for you." And he kind of like awkwardly shakes your hand.
That would have been a debacle.
Went to the back.
So yeah, he wins, but he's a little underslept from the challenge.
Yeah, I think he knew pretty immediately that it was not smart to make that deal.
Why would he make that deal?
He was going to beat you.
Yeah. I honestly don't fully know. But another thing is that me and Mitch, even though we never worked together, we did always, after every vote and every week, kind of at least check in on each other. And we always had an open line of communication and just kind of a mutual respect that we were close, a little closer at least, than the edit would have you think. And so, and I also told him when I was up there that, dude, whether, if I step down, if I lose this, I'm obviously going to be voted out. But if you lose, I'm going to vote for Leia. And that's a promise, which I was always thinking of voting for her at the Final Four, and that was the truth. And so, I don't know. Maybe like I said, it was cold. It had been a long day, and after all of the emotions everyone had gone through the past few votes, none of us were really were thinking straight.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And
Mitch kind of explained that in a confessional, how he was like so drained at this point. He was like tired. He was not really thinking straight. But yeah, so he decides he had this plan to give Leia immunity.
Did you all know that this happened before watching the episode? And what were your just initial thoughts watching this live? Because the people I was watching with were just jaws on the floor, didn't know what to think.
Oh, I had no idea that
happened.
happened.
No idea.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, I knew that Leia wasn't going to make it
to
the end. I thought it was just because Tarowski won immunity. Like, I did not. I was so shocked to see.
No, yeah. I thought that. Yeah, I was very shocked. I don't even know how shocked I was about the deal. I was just shocked about how, after making the deal, Mitch was not only not willing to go back on it, which I thought that could have been maybe a good move for him, but he was so upset about it that he was willing to throw away his own game. That way Leia could win.
Yeah.
He was so like, Jarowski cannot win this game. I will give up so that Jarowski doesn't win.
Mm-hmm.
But you can vote out Jarowski.
Yeah.
That's a very easy way to make
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you guys know, like, the Dreams situation?
Yeah.
Like, look back. I feel like he was scared that would happen to him.
Yeah, also, Mitch is, part of how he always wanted to play and was playing was built around loyalty. And I think that had he gone back on his word with me, it would have kind of totally gone against the foundation of his strategy, which is what he was thinking. And also just on a personal level, like I said, me and Mitch, we always respected each other. And I guess he just would have felt too bad. The part that I don't get the most out of it, because I understand Mitch made a deal he probably shouldn't have and then stuck to it, but I still to this day don't know why Leia didn't tell him, dude, you're voting out Tarowski. I don't care what deal you made. I'm still pretty shocked that didn't happen.
She almost seemed kind of okay with it.
Yeah, no. Mitch said that he was okay with voting Leia because Leia had been okay with it, and I think it was because I think Leia didn't want Mitch to like go against his word. Yeah.
I really think that this is where Brittany could have really stepped in and said, you guys are being ridiculous. This is a game. You need to vote for Tarowski. We're making the final three together. This three in this room, we can be the final three. This is the chance. I think this is where Brittany really could have made her move, honestly, and been, hey, those two numbskulls are gonna just vote. They're gonna vote for. Mitch wanted to give up the game. He wanted to get voted out, and Leia was okay with him voting for her. And I said, guys, we need to be the final three. We need to vote for Tarowski. I think that's. I think that Brittany could have maybe done something there. I don't know. I just really think that. Yeah, I agree with you saying, Tarowski. Like, I understand what Mitch was going through and how he had built this game, but I do think that Leia also could have done more to save herself at that point.
Also, even just the fact, I feel like she kind of knew it was going to tie going into Tribal. I'm not sure if you guys knew what like tiebreakers were going to be at that point, but I remember her telling me she regretted that not doing everything she could have, and I think she meant like not studying up on like trivia. Like you knew that might have been the tiebreaker.
Yeah, what were you thinking the tiebreaker would be?
I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what the tiebreaker was going to be.
Do you think George might set down like some sticks and some in front of you and say, "All right, go ahead"?
That would have been so awesome.
I actually remember either right before or after the tiebreaker happened, Leia said something to me like, if it was a fire making challenge, I would have beaten you, or I will beat you. If it's fire making, and I was like, all right, it's obviously not going to be fire making, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, I had no idea what the challenge was going to be, and I guess I got lucky that it is what it was. Think about the game so 24/7. I knew I was never going to get one of those questions wrong.
Yeah.
Something else I want to note before we get into the tribal is Mitch said, I could give the immunity to Tarowski. You guys should vote me out. Leia could have just said, okay, go for it.
Yeah, accept
Yeah.
that, Leia.
Well, no,
somebody's saying either you have the chances of I'm gonna make you do a tiebreaker against Tarowski, or I'm gonna give someone else immunity and you guys can vote me out. If somebody volunteers to be voted out at the final four, you let them do it.
Well,
They were just.
Well, I don't think that Leia wanted me in the final three anyway, because I think that everyone knew that their best shot at winning was if all three of them made it. And so, under the assumption Mitch isn't going to break his word to me, the only way they can get me out is if I lose that final four challenge.
What about one other scenario they could have pitched to Mitch? What if they were just like, Mitch, you vote for Brittany, okay? And then you don't have to go back on your word of Tarowski, technically. You're not voting. You're not voting for him, but we're gonna have 2 votes on Tarowski, 1 vote Brittany, 1 vote Leia. All right.
Yeah.
And you're completely guilt free.
Wait,
okay?
Why didn't that happen?
He didn't say I'm not going to vote for you. He said I will vote for Leia.
Yeah, he did. He did promise me that I would have the opportunity to do a tiebreaker challenge.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was thinking the same
For a
thing.
second, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I think that'd be going a little bit too, a little too sneaky for Mitch.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know what he could say to his mom on the phone after that.
Yeah.
Oh no, he was like, I know he said he was like my family watches this.
My
Like,
family was.
yeah. Okay, but the jury is also freaking out over this deal once they hear about it.
We knew about it before tribal council had begun. It wasn't like this was our first time hearing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our reactions would have been like 10 times bigger. I think people were still like, you see, there's this amazing shot of Cooper just like head in his hands, just like shaking his head because like he's heard about this for the past couple of days or however long it had been, and he's just like, I still can't believe this is real, because I think all of us were just like so shocked. Also, the night of the challenge, actually, George and Claire like messaged in the group. They were like keeping us updated as to what was happening in the challenge in the group meet. So they messaged like Brittany's gone, and then at 2 a.m. or whatever it was, they were like, challenge is over, and Akshay was like, who won? And they said Mitch, and my heart sank because it had just happened, and I think like the jury who ended up mostly voting for Tarowski were all like just upset, and Akshay said something hilarious. I actually just pulled it up because it's so funny. He was like, Cooper says, "Wait, are you serious?" Akshay says, "Please tell me you're not." George says, "Game is not over. See you all Sunday night." And Akshay says, "Well, then I'd like to apologize in advance for how this season turned out, George."
Oh my god. Savage from the beginning to the end.
But yeah, we were all just floored with this whole thing. I mean, I still really have a hard time understanding a lot of the logic that Leia and Mitch were using here.
I do think it's kind of similar to the final 6 vote too, though. It's like maybe it wasn't as much strategy as it was just they just couldn't do something. There's something he just couldn't do.
I understand that, but it's like if he gave his word, he says that he gave his word to 2 people in the whole game. One was Leia, who he had this, tremendous relationship with, and has been working with for 90-something days. And one is Tarowski, who he promised something to 2 nights ago. And he ends up sending Leia home. So he does like break his word to one of them in that way. And like, I don't know. To me, I understand the relationship thing and the emotional thing, but I can't really understand why he didn't just vote out Tarowski.
Well, if he didn't get Leia's blessing, what he was going to do was give me the necklace and tell everyone to vote him out. I think they actually I think they said this in the episode.
Yeah, no, they
but
that would have been insane.
Yeah, that was something I was totally unaware of at the time, and in the moment, if I was handed that necklace, I probably would have started running and screaming on the spot.
That would have been.
Oh wow!
But I guess it comes down to that Leia just was totally okay with it for reasons I haven't been told yet. It's still pretty shocking to this day, but of course I'm glad it worked out the way it did.
So, yeah, that was a very, very, very hard for Mitch. You guys, it shows everybody voting. We have a great voting confessional out of you, Tarowski. You say to Leia, "You can keep your hands nice and warm on the jerky."
Oh, that was a good one.
That was good.
Yeah, I had been planning that one all day.
Oh my gosh! I guess we get to the tiebreaker, and drum roll, it is game trivia. Sudden death.
So, and yeah, it's Rousey. You say that you feel pretty confident at this point that you have all the game trivia.
Look, Ross has trained him at this point to think on his feet and to beat people. The thing is, this tiebreaker didn't last very long because by the second question, Tarowski had won.
Yeah. Final player drafted the swap, excluding Corella.
So, how'd you feel answering these questions out, Charles? Did you just know them right away?
The 2 that were asked, I knew both of them right away.
Because then, Leia, you answer.
I answered Angela.
Yeah, Angela. Leia says.
No, so actually, sorry to interject, but Leia actually said Brittany. I think it was a typo that George made the subtitle Akshay.
It was very small, right? You can't even see.
But no, she definitely said Brittany.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Mitch just can't watch. He can't even watch.
Was Mitch crying after? I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's I really felt for him in that moment. It was really tough to see. I was kind of conflicting these two things where I was so elated that I had made the final three, but I also felt really uncomfortable and just bad for Mitch that he was feeling the way he did in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you were feeling a lot of mixed emotions at the time.
Trotsky was just thinking, bada bing.
Yeah.
Here comes the money,
baby. Moment where you knew that, did you know in that moment, like, I have this game won?
Yeah, I did. Not to be pompous or anything, but I knew right away that if I made the final three, I was going to win. So,
well, actually, there's a question I want to ask. Who do you think would have won if you two actually had gone fan together?
We don't fully know this one either, but I lean toward it being Thal.
Really? You've never said that before.
Oh, really?
I mean, I agree.
I think it would have been close. I think you think that it would have been a blowout. I think it would have been close.
No. I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have been a blowout.
I mean, let's run through it. I mean, it also depends who the
okay.
It depends who the third person is. But say, for example, our Brittany plan works at the final five, and it's us two and Brittany.
Yeah.
I think.
All right. So Kara.
Or as you say, Trotsky, Kara.
Kara.
Kara
and Sarah.
Kara and Sarah.
Carrot.
Who does she vote for?
Hey, who does she like out of the two of you?
I don't know. I really don't know. I again lean toward it being Thal, but I can't say for sure.
I also don't know about Kara. I remember like counting this in my head repeatedly a year ago, but I honestly forget a lot of the conclusions I made, and a lot of it was based on just sort of like random things that people had told me right when I got voted out, or within the next few days, that could have been totally up in the air. So it's very difficult to know. And Kara in particular, I don't remember. I do think I probably would have gotten Angela's vote because I think I was besides Trotsky playing the idol for her, like I was the more the main connection to her from the two of us. I think for most of the game. Yeah. Would you agree with that, Alex?
I would agree with that. But I also don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know who she would have voted for. I think that the vote ultimately would have come down to Kara and Angela, whoever they voted for.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah.
Because I think I do definitely get Liz.
Yeah.
And I mean, if it's in the reality where Thal backstabbed her like that, then I definitely get Liz. I think I probably get Mitch. I can't say that for sure, but I think so.
Probably not Leia, though.
I definitely don't get Leia.
Yeah, I don't know. Leia and Mitch's votes are tricky. I was texting with Mitch the other day, and he had said after watching that Final 7 episode that he thinks he would have voted for me if I had gotten to the end. Again, this is a year later. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him saying at the time just how much your logic didn't make sense and how horribly you played the final 7 and 6.
Totally, but I think he also didn't.
So just based on that is why I'm saying I think he would have voted for me.
Right, but I also think that a lot of them were just so baffled by what happened at 7 because they didn't have the missing puzzle piece of me and Liz.
It was
baffling, exactly. They didn't have the missing puzzle piece of me and Liz's relationship, where I would explain that, and they would probably find out through Liz on the jury that move made a lot more sense than it looked on the outset. Oh, also, do you want to just say one thing off topic? But Leia said that after the final 7 vote, I immediately told everyone about my relationship with Liz, which is not true. Or that the two of us told everyone about our relationship. I said that after the final 6 vote, after Liz has been voted out, that's when I revealed it. But they were not aware of how close Liz and I were. They may have had their suspicions, we did of Mitch and Leia that week, the final 6 week, but they were not aware of that throughout the week. That, or at least I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah, and while we're also debunking what people have said previously on the podcast. Thal, do you think I should go into this whole thing?
I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but yes.
Just how people always claimed to know about or think we were closer.
Oh.
Just,
yeah, we've heard a lot about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
It's not true. I can't speak for anyone else, but I have compiled a list of quotes from previous episodes.
Ooh.
Here we go.
If I quote example, you got.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. Cooper quote. This is after the final 8 vote where I vote for Akshay. He says, "Makes me think someone tipped off Tarowski. I don't think it was Thal." Okay,
I remember that.
Quote from Liz. Thal is completely with me unless he's way closer to Tarowski than he's letting on, which I don't think is the case. Quote from Leia. If Mitch, Liz, Thal, and Tarowski are in alliance, Tarowski is on the bottom. And then Mitch in the finale saying, quote, "No 2 people in the game are closer than me and Leia."
Wow, those are good.
So yeah,
And this is what
so just to clarify, I don't doubt that people thought we may have been a little closer than we were letting on, but for them to claim to have known that we were fully in cahoots the entire time, even through him voting for me, I know people have been poking fun at how obviously fake the fight was, but
yeah.
I think there was at least some.
That's one of my favorite moments of the season.
There was at least some sense, I think, that we were at least willing to flip on each other or would flip on each other, which is why everyone came to Thal at the final 7 with all these plans, contingent upon he cannot tell me any of the information or else they won't work.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't want to like discount what other people are saying, but their actions like just say otherwise. The fact that they were trying to hatch all these plans with me, that none of them included Tarowski, I think like reveals that. And I also think, you know, there's like this sort of double truth kind of thing in Survivor. And this, I think we were on the opposite side of this in the case of Mitch and Leia, where after the final 7 vote and Leia refusing to vote for Mitch, we definitely had many conversations where we were like, they must be closer than they are. They must be closer than they are. But still like not really actually believing it totally. Like we thought about it and we talked about it, but like it wasn't a truism. And we even, you know, and to the point where I literally thought they were going to percent chance that they were going to be voting differently than each other by the end of the week. So there's definitely like you have suspicions about everyone in the game, and there's a lot of things that seem like they could be true, and you don't ever really know a lot of things 100%. And oftentimes I think you forget things, or you know, you have to sort of just go on your gut, and you leave these things that you thought may be true on the table for things that for other things that you thought might be true. So I think that's probably a lot of what we're hearing.
Yeah, it's kind of like human nature to be like, if you thought something maybe, when it does actually happen, you're like, oh, I knew it.
Right, exactly.
You did not know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, for sure. That's a good example. Yeah.
Okay. Exactly.
So before we get into questions from at Final Tribal Council from the jury, we have some questions for you two.
Hey.
And we're going into our last social media segment of season 1. Actually, it's not really social media.
Yeah,
it's like
social.
game. It's just like
social.
the more chill part.
Yeah, it's a little lighthearted part.
All right, so this first game is called the How Well Do the Alex T's Know Each Other game.
Yeah, newlywed game. If you've heard of that. So we see how close you are. You keep telling us that you're 100% honest with each other. You're talking all the time. Let's see it. Let's put it to the test.
So we have 3 questions prepared. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna ask them to you, and you guys are gonna say what the other person's answer would be, and then we're gonna see if it's correct. All right.
Baby, do you have what our actual answers are?
No, but just don't lie.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start easy.
Yeah.
Who is the other Alex T's celebrity crush?
I know 100%.
You obviously know. I know a few of yours, but I don't know which one would be number 1.
I mean, I don't know if I would define a number 1 for myself, but I surely know yours, pal.
All right, you could just go ahead and say yours first.
You mean yours?
Mine.
Yeah.
Say Alex T's first.
Yeah, Alex T, you go first.
Okay. Alex T's celebrity crush is Ariana Grande.
And that.
Oh.
Ooh.
Is that correct?
Yeah, very, very correct.
All right, 1 point for Alex T.
Ding.
All right, Alex
Thank
T. What
you.
about
Next
you?
question.
All right, Tarowski. What's Stalls?
He doesn't have a number one.
Oh,
Well,
I just got that.
There's. I'm gonna say Amelia Clarke, Daenerys from Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but she's beautiful. She's definitely on the. She's definitely on the.
Right?
I was literally thinking her.
Oh!
As like
good
that
job.
was who
Good
came to
job,
my mind.
guys.
Who do you
Oh.
think you played Survivor the most like in terms of a Game of Thrones character?
I think that I was Lord Varys.
Ooh.
Also, I want to say that I don't actually like Game of Thrones, but I watch the culture.
What?
Oh my gosh.
But I do know everything that happens. But I'm gonna say I'm Lord Varys because I was behind the scenes. Not always, but especially when Thal was kind of at the forefront of the game. I knew all the information that was happening, and yet no one knew it. And so I'm gonna say him.
Thal's maybe is he Tyrion maybe?
Oh, Thal's a really good Tyrion, actually.
Yeah, good friends, and he kind of like Tyrion, kind of like he's friends with everybody.
Yeah.
And he's definitely very close with Varys.
Next question. What is the other Alex T's most embarrassing moment?
On the show?
No, in life.
Oh.
God,
The baby diapers thing was pretty embarrassing.
I mean, if I were to think of my entire life.
This is a tough one.
God,
this is so open-ended.
Oh my God, I know one of yours, but it's...
But what?
On air. I'm not going to say it on this
podcast. Thank you. Right. Thank you for your discretion.
But just know that it probably is.
All right. How about this then? You give us like a couple of buzzwords. That way we can know if you're correct.
Yeah. Buzzwords, yes.
The buzzword being never have.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm getting at, Paul? Yeah. Is it fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, God, I mean, there must be some stuff in high school that was worse. That was very embarrassing. Let's move on from this one.
All right.
We'll ask him.
Yeah.
Charles's most embarrassing. This is tough. One jumps to mind, but again, probably not appropriate for the podcast.
Buzzword.
Cantina.
Ooh.
Oh my God. That's up there. Yeah. All right, yeah.
Let's move on to something more light.
Yeah. All right, I stopped recording. Can you guys tell the story now?
Wink, wink.
Absolutely.
Wink, wink.
Honestly, please don't, Tarowski. This is like embarrassing on a whole other level.
No.
Okay, no.
Absolutely.
We won't do that to you.
Not.
Okay, we'll keep. This one's very chill. Favorite place the other Alex T has traveled to?
I think I could say Tarowski's pretty confidently.
Yeah. I don't know everywhere you've traveled to. I know you studied abroad in Italy, so I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's hard to rank places, but I love Italy. All right, Tarowski's is definitely Los Angeles. I'm just kidding. Thailand.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
There
Good job, guys.
We have a perfect score on both sides.
They have passed the test.
Yeah.
Pass the test.
We're the real deal.
This test. Now let's see if you can pass the next one.
All right, so basically the season is over, but we have accumulated a lot of fans throughout the season. And so we wanted to talk about a fan encounter that Tarowski had the other day. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so it was in the morning. I was outside my office building where I work in New York City. I was at a food truck getting a breakfast sandwich, and this guy walks by, and he kind of does a double take, and then he's like, is your name Alex Tarowski? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, really? And I said, yes. And he's like, I was just watching you on Survivor. I'm Mitch's uncle.
Awesome.
And I was like, no way. And then he took a picture of me. He's like, can I take a picture? And I thought that meant like a kind of a selfie of us two, but no, he just kind of took a picture of me.
Wait, but guys.
And then went on his way.
And then after this, Mitch sends us a screenshot of a group chat he has with his uncle. And it's a picture of Tarowski that his uncle sent. And he's like, hey, guys, look who I ran into and recognized on the way to work. Tarowski. I told him I'm Mitchell's uncle. And then Rick Doppelt goes, wow. ... Hilarious.
They all have Midwestern accents.
Yeah,
the whole family.
Yeah. Wow. Hilarious.
Jill Doppelt. Crazy funny.
Crazy funny. Did Mitchell's uncle have an accent, Tarowski? Was it noticeable?
It wasn't noticeable. Mitch's is way more pronounced.
Okay.
All right, so Finals Tribal Council. You've been preparing for days, for months, trying to get to this moment. And it's finally here. You walk in with this dope blue pantsuit. I love it.
Pantsuit, the Neela buff.
Yeah. You're ready to kill it.
Did you did you memorize your speech?
I did. I wrote out my opening speech.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And remembered it and said it.
Yeah, so we start with Mitch was the first person to give his opening statement. Okay.
We need to talk about the mouse on Brittany's face.
What?
The what?
Yeah. What was that? Literally, like, just the computer mouse on all Brittany's tribal confessions.
Oh, there is?
I'm
I didn't
thinking that
notice
she
that.
had recorded it on her computer, probably, and I have no idea.
I don't know how that happened.
And then her audio just starts going really fuzzy at the end. The whole thing is just like a train wreck.
Yeah. I should have re-recorded that or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so basically to sum it up though, Mitch kind of talks about how this game grew with him, it became so much more than just a club, and he's really proud of how he's played.
He won 3 immunities.
Yeah.
Secret alliance with Leia, so difficult.
Yeah.
It was so difficult to be blindsided because of my secret alliance with Leia.
Exactly. And then Brittany
says she's such a huge super fan, and she won her 2 challenges even though she thinks she couldn't. She focused on her social game. I campaigned against Tarowski and Mitch, but nobody was listening to me. But I didn't betray anybody except for Liz. I was genuine. I formed relationships. I just don't want to be sitting here next to Tarowski.
Yeah.
And then Tarowski's out here. Honestly, Tarowski, you were really good at giving the speech.
Yeah.
People were laughing. You paused at the right time. It was good. Yeah. Yeah, so basically you talked about how versatile your game was. You had points when you were the kingpin. You had so many idols. You played them correctly. But then you were also kind of at the bottom a little bit, public enemy number 1. But you were able to adapt to every situation. So I was just going to wonder how you guys ranked these speeches in terms of how good they look.
I think that Tarowski's was best. I really liked how you were highlighting the fact that you played both an aggressive game and made big moves, but also under the radar, and you knew which on and off. And I think that was a good point to make.
I think Mitch's was a little too self-apologetic from the beginning. He was I forgot exactly what he said. It's on the notes, but I remember he was saying something it was just something I know, I traded on some people. I know I kind of did some things here, blah, blah, blah. It kind of almost seemed like he was already admitting defeat a little bit. I think he could have been more forceful. I don't know.
Brittany and Mitch's opening statements weren't horrible. I really think that they lost it more with the questioning than they did with the speeches. I do think coming in that there was a very small chance that Tarowski was going to lose. I think everyone had their mind made up.
I think generally unfortunately for Brittany and Mitch, they had to spend a lot of time of their final tribals kind of explaining what people consider to be the negatives of their game. Mitch's entire opening speech was, I'm sorry if I came off rude or anything, whereas I kind of spent almost all my time just highlighting the positives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just dwelling on the negatives didn't go too well for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good tip in Survivor, especially at Final Tribal. Focus on the positives. If people want to bring up the negatives, maybe they will, but don't bring up the negatives yourself. Leave that for the jury to do.
If you bring up the negatives, people are just gonna, even if you're really like battling down those negatives really well, people are gonna, what's gonna stick in their head from that is the negatives. You know.
Yeah.
I will say that I think Mitch had a rough couple weeks. He was still, sort of dealing with the fallout of the Leia thing, and I think he had just sort of heard through the grapevine that the jury wasn't loving him. So I think he, considering all of that, I think he, I know he was just really just through George was sort of filling me in that he just wasn't having the best time. Considering that, I think he came to the Final Tribal with a good head on his shoulders, and he was being apologetic because he sort of knew that what the jury thought right off the bat. But I think he also did it in a charming way and was able to stand up and also own his game simultaneously and be very honest. I thought he did a good job, just honestly confronting people's issues with his game.
So we want to go through real quick what the jury questioning everybody.
Yeah, sure. A lot of it was cut out.
Yeah.
So.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Any highlights?
First of all, the opening speeches were way longer. They were all cut short. I think I actually made a joke during mine, it's gone on way too long. I'll just stop talking now. But first of all, Akshay asked all three of us questions. I think they only showed the one he said she asked to Mitch. I don't remember exactly what he asked the other two, but he asked me. He had 2 points. He wanted me to answer for a point of the middle portion of the post merge where people thought that I wasn't really doing anything. I was just kind of grabbing onto any votes, and then I had to explain that I actually knew everything through Thal. And then there was another thing he asked me where he thought that at various points I may have been condescending toward him, which I apologized for, and honestly didn't even realize. But yeah, that's what he asked me. Angela, I remember there were way more to her answers. I don't even remember. Really pretty much every single juror, a lot of the answer portion cut out.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot was missing. We still saw a lot, though, and I feel like it just would have been way too long. Yeah, I definitely also asked Mitch a question, and that got cut out.
I actually have a question about, a strategy, or I don't know. Why did you decide not to reveal the whole roommate thing until after the votes?
Yeah.
Why was that a big bomb?
I mean, we just didn't want to risk them using that against us.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it really was just kind of the crux of our whole position in the game was that we had kind of this huge advantage because we knew each other and we thought that people might not take that well.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
I think I was pretty disappointed that in all the things that got cut, we didn't get to see Matthew Israel give its jury speech.
Yeah, wait, where's Matthew?
How come? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's so weird.
I feel like so everything else that was important was shown, but it's almost like Matthew wasn't even there in the jury.
Oh, burn. Speaking of burns, Akshay, when he goes to vote, is like, your answers were ass, but good thing the other two's answers were even more ass.
Yeah, and the thing about that is I did go into Final Tribal knowing that things would have to go horribly wrong for me to lose, and so I played it really, really safe. And I was fully prepared if I had to really dig in at Mitch and Brittany.
Yeah.
But they were the first two to make their opening statements and answer most questions, and that's just not the vibe that was going toward. Mm-hmm. And so I decided against that, and I just decided to play it safe.
Yeah.
So I left a lot of arguments on the cutting room floor.
So we see Thal. You say, "I'm voting for myself."
Yeah,
pulls up an Alex T. That was great.
One last Alex T joke.
Another Alex T joke. Well, those have never been made before.
How many thousands of Alex T jokes do you think have been made?
A lot.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it was just such an ongoing joke. But
Negative 10,000, maybe.
We saw Leia votes for Mitch. I don't think there's any other way that's going to happen. She's just going to vote for Mitch, no matter what.
But yeah.
So we start revealing votes.
I think we should talk about Liz's vote, which I think is interesting because she was probably, at least for if you look at it on a timeline, like more aligned with Mitch and Brittany throughout the game than she was with Tarowski.
Right.
Like they were literally her two closest allies throughout the entire pre-merge and into like well into the post-merge. So it's fascinating to see that she votes for Tarowski here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she did.
Whoa, where are those hearts coming from?
Yeah, I think that's just a testament to just how much. I know the show focused way more on her and Fall's relationship, but me and Liz, in our own right, just became actual friends really fast. Even on top of being allies, she just became a very good friend of mine through and after the show, and yeah, so she voted for me as a friend.
This is the best.
We reveal the votes, and Tarowski gets every vote except for one, which goes to Mitch. And Brittany,
and you
get the first winner of Survivor Michigan.
Wow. Did you get any prize?
I got $100.
Oh,
and more importantly, just the title of Sole Survivor.
Yes,
you can buy so many apples and diapers with $100. Kayak.
How did we spend that $100 at Tarowski?
What we had been planning the whole season was that if one of us won, we would spend that money at Chop House. And that's exactly what we did. And we brought George along. It was the three of us.
No. That's great.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the moments right after the votes are read.
Yeah.
It was literally like a minute or two after George read the votes that we made our announcement.
And everybody was thinking, because you guys were saying that you had a big announcement to make.
Yeah.
Everyone was thinking that maybe you guys were going to have a different announcement than what you had.
I mean, how epic that would have just been. Like the only way this could have been better, I feel like, is if we were in a relationship this whole time. I mean, and we're playing them. I mean, and then the Liz thing would have seemed even less like an asshole on that end. It's just it would have been so great. I wish that was the case.
No, I think even better would be if Tarowski dropped down on a knee and proposed. $100.
Yeah. I'm gonna use this money to buy a
Gosh. Well, you know how Matthew writes all that fan fiction.
Yeah.
So.
It's the only thing that I think that he would want to be the one proposing in his fan fiction, but I could see this being one of his scenarios.
Yeah. It would have been great if Tarowski proposed to me, Brittany proposes to Matthew, who comes in from behind the jury, and then Mitch proposes to Liz, and we just get like a trifecta of marriages.
That would have been great.
Seemed like, what was the reaction after you said that? Were they all really surprised? Were they all, we knew all along?
I mean, it's kind of an impossible thing to predict, honestly. Even if they knew that, they did know that we toward the end of the game that we knew each other before the game. We tried to play it down, but for us
cover photo debacle,
to literally be best friends and do everything together is. You can't predict that. I don't think. Yeah,
I think it was also nice because it did explain a lot of like what we were doing throughout the game a little more. But it was also kind of, I don't know, I felt bad about it too because it was like all of these allies who really trusted us like fully, we were lying to the whole time. And in Survivor, it's really easy to like compartmentalize, lying, and like that was such like a default lie almost. But like for them, I think. It's just like, oh wow, they were just like pulling the wool over our eyes that entire time. Like people like Kara or Angela or Liz, like
Kara,
Yeah.
Like Kara and Sarah, Angela. So it looks like time does heal. I mean, not all wounds, most wounds. It seems like you guys, after everything had been said and done, it sounds like you guys had some get-togethers, some parties. Everyone had was intermingling and became friends again, right?
Yeah, it's in the end, it is a game and it's all in good fun. And I love everyone that was on that cast, and we're always gonna share this as like I said, as stupid and nerdy as it is. It was kind of everyone's entire semester.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's something we'll always be able to bond over.
Oh, yeah. So are you two still BFFs, even though you're on opposite coasts now? But
of course, Paul, you're quiet.
Times change.
Oh no.
No, we definitely are. I was actually just in New York visiting. We got to watch the final 6 episodes together.
That's great.
Yeah, no, things are good. And yeah, I echo what he said about the rest of the cast. It was really nice being able to do that first semester of our last year, and then have second semester to still hang out with everybody. It's cool to see that so much of a community has been built around Survivor Michigan, and weirdly I feel kind of detached from it all, but I kind of lurk from afar, and am happy that this is all happening, and I'm excited for the next seasons. I also wanted to just say thank you to you guys, because you have really enhanced. I was dubious at first. I was like, "What, a podcast from season 2 people?" Okay, but you've really enhanced my experience being able to watch it, which has been it gets tiring refreshing YouTube comments every hour on the hour. Having more content is really nice, and you guys have done such a good job. And I've literally looked forward to the podcast almost as much as the episode each week. So thank you.
Thank you. And I concur.
No, it
Yeah,
really
wow.
does.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. And are you guys excited for season 2?
Of course.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, it's been really awesome talking with you guys. I'm so glad you guys got to be here as guests. And I'm so glad you guys were part of season 1.
Yeah.
I know you said you feel maybe somewhat detached from, because you're graduated and whatever, but you guys were a very, very important part of the community here. Everyone loved watching you guys, and seeing you guys make it through the entire game, especially you, Tarowski. But both of you really together through the whole game, even at the end, with all you on the jury voting for him. So it's really awesome seeing you guys, and really glad we got to have this time.
Yeah, and of course, if you guys we're going to keep doing this podcast, I think, for the foreseeable future and new season. So if you ever want to come on and talk about, season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, always an open door.
Invite, yeah.
Open invite.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so
All
much,
right,
guys.
bye, guys.
Bye.
Congrats again.
All right, so I guess before we bring this episode to a close, we can maybe eulogize the people that have been voted out / lost, and I don't know, talk about the season real quick, put a little bow on the season. So I guess we can start with Alex Thal.
Why am I always on this?
Because you're so good at these.
Yeah, you listen to a lot of Evolution of Strategy.
I know, I have.
You're like the eulogist.
The eulogizer.
Yeah.
Eulogizelman. All right.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Okay, take that out.
No, we're keeping that.
All right. Alex Thal. So Thal, I think, is somebody who, at the start of the game, was a little bit overshadowed by Tarowski. Because Tarowski, from the start, he kind of has been this full-on mob boss, villain, whatever. And Thal is kind of, the auxiliary to that. But once we hit the merge, Thal just took off so hard. And there are so many great Thal moments. Even just, we've talked so much about, the Thal and Tarowski moments, but I think Thal even just on his own has so many great moments. Him going down the slide with George was just so funny. Him, of course, of all people in the show, I'm so happy that the stars aligned that Thal and Liz ended up at MASH that night.
Yes.
And I think that made the season so much better, because I don't think without that, I don't know how far they're able to make it.
Yeah, Thal's social getting really propelled
Yeah.
at the end.
Well, that was funny because I remember at the point where Brittany had her whiteboard with all the connections, and that was the one connection that she didn't know about yet. And that connection ended up, I think, really causing some waves. But yeah, Thal was very social, very well liked, according to the Alexes. He would have won if he made it to the end. I think that it really just ended up being, he was just so loyal to Tarowski, on just such a personal level. It's just, he just couldn't, there might have been a better strategic move for him to make, but it just wasn't about strategy at that point.
Yeah. I don't think, it's, his connection with Tarowski is both what was allowed him to be in such an amazing position and to made it that far, but also kind of ended up being the downfall. If you have this this relationship of just 110% trust and 100% trust, 110%,
150 to 200%.
150 to 200% happy with the relationship they have.
Yes.
So it was just really hard for them to turn on that and make what might be a better strategic, logical move. I feel like he's probably kicking himself in the back for that a lot, but I don't think you can really expect him to do anything other than that.
Yeah. And then we talked a little bit about what he could have done differently with, that final 5 vote after Liz is already gone, but I don't really know how much more he could have done. I mean, maybe he could have not helped Trowski win that immunity, but I don't know. I really think that Thal played a great game, and he made a little mistake at final 7, tried to push a little bit too hard, and final 6, I think he might have, that decision, obviously, we talked about it already, but he played a very great game. It was a very, very fun to watch.
So fun to watch. He is somebody, especially I see people tweet this all the time, that he is somebody that needs to be on Real Survivor. I feel like he'd be so excellent.
He'd be very good.
Just from the very first episode, he's somebody who's been able to give a really good confessional, is somebody who's fun to watch. He's very articulate and explains what's going on, and I think that he would definitely... I really wish that he could play in an all-star season, because I would love to see what Alex Thal looks like without Alex Tarowski at his side.
Yeah.
I would love to see how he plays that game.
Yeah.
He really did grow into the body of a great Survivor player.
He 100% did. Okay.
So now we come to the final 4, Leia. Leia, who, man, I just remember... She's just so intense. She has such an intensity she brings to the game. Intensity unknown to mankind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good one.
She found the first idol in the game way back.
Way back, right under Matthew Israel's nose.
Right.
She swooped in.
She swooped in.
Yeah, it's definitely been so. We've talked about this hours and hours, but being able to compare her relationship with Cooper to the relationships with the Alexes.
And with Mitch.
Yeah, that's the thing. Leia had kind of 2 of these secret relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
2 is more than 1.
Yeah, it is more than 1. So if there was some universe where that she could have gotten out of the final 7 with both of them in the game, then I think that there's no way that she doesn't at least make it to the final 3.
Yeah. That final 7, I think, really did have a lot of implications in the rest of the game. But no, Leia played, I think, a very, very strong game. She was very talented.
Very talented.
Very talented. She won the first individual immunity. She found the first idol. She was making a lot of very strategic decisions along with Mitch. And that relationship with Mitch carried both of them very, very far.
Very far.
I think that depending on who you talk to, you might hear different things on whether she was making all the decisions or whether Mitch was making all the decisions. I think what we can say for sure is that the 2 of them together were very, very strong, and it brought them all the way to the final 4. And her game just really came, I think, crashing down very quickly once we hit the final 4.
I think it's really hard to say exactly what would have happened, but it's very, very possible that if Tarowski goes out at final 4, that she's the winner of Survivor Michigan.
I agree. I think that it's very possible that if she made the final 4 even with Tarowski, she could still win. Tarowski probably would still win.
Yeah.
But I agree. She wins that tiebreaker. She gets the question right, and Tarowski gets it wrong. She's probably the winner of Survivor Michigan. Yeah. We talked a little bit about things she could have done differently in the final 4, whether she could have convinced Mitch to give up immunity, or whether she could have convinced Mitch to vote out Tarowski. And I think we'll probably hear more in the post-game interviews, but we do have some of her thoughts, things that she's said before, are things along the lines of how she didn't think it'd be fair of her to ask him to give up his immunity and go against his word like that. Their relationship was just so strong that it just went so far beyond the game. And I think that's very similar to kind of what Alex Thal was saying earlier today, just how that relationship was just so strong. The relationship she had with Mitch. She said she calls Mitch Dopplet a great human and a great friend in the midst of a game we both loved that took a very seriously emotional toll on both of them. The choices might not make sense to an audience who hasn't played it and hasn't seen their side of the story.
It's true.
Alex said it earlier today. Yeah. Leia says the same thing about her and Mitch. I think I can compare kind of both of them. I think in similar ways. I think that something that Leia said to us, and also that Thal has said about Churowski, is that it's something that Leia said, and something that the Alexes will also say. She says, I went into the game with one lifelong best friend, and they came out with 2. Aww. Well, as we said earlier, 2 is better than 1.
That is true. So I think Leia, like we said before, is such a fiery, passionate person who always goes full tilt, always goes 150 to 200%. And Leia is the only person, I think, of the final 6 who hasn't graduated. So I personally would love to see a Leia 2.0. But we'll see if that's in the cards of Survivor Michigan future.
Yeah. If only she hadn't had that exam the next day.
Yeah.
If only she hadn't. I wouldn't blame it on the pretzels. It's fine. She was going to drop anyways. Yeah. But, if all I can say is at least she got some nice pretzels out of the whole thing.
Yes.
And 2 lifelong friends. 2 lifelong friends is better than 1 lifelong friend. Add a pretzel into the mix, and Leia really came out of the game with a lot of great things.
Yes.
Final 4. She made the Final 4, and very strong competitor. She played a very respectable game. Going into the Final 3, we have at 3rd place, Brittany.
Very, very strong 3rd place person. I feel like often in CBS Survivor, the 3rd place person in the Final 3 is somebody who's just an absolute complete goat. Has no idea what's going on. Brittany had her finger on the pulse of the game. Maybe perhaps better than anybody in this game. So she has always known exactly what is going on. She may not have known maybe the extent of Thal and Alex or Thal and Liz, but her plotting out Liz at the center of the sun, she was the first person to really realize how great a position that Liz was in. She's realized that if Churowski goes to the end, that he's obviously winning. And really, we were kind of making fun of her about, how fixated she was on, we gotta get out Churowski. But she was so right.
She was right.
She was the voice of reason in those, final 9, final 8, final 7, whatever votes, where they somehow took out Neela's, but didn't take out 2 of the biggest Neela threats in the game. So I think if they listen to Brittany, then definitely Amazon wins this game.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it could easily have been Brittany. And we heard from Thal and Churowski earlier that it's very possible that she could have ended up winning this game.
Yeah, and I think that seeing a super fan like Brittany play the game is really cool, just because I've always been a super fan of Survivor. I've always just dreamt of playing the game. I know that a lot of people watching the show and listening to the podcast are just such big fans of Survivor. They just can't get enough of it. And seeing someone like that get the opportunity to play, and you just know how it's just so exciting. It's like a dream come true. It really is. And I think that I'm just really happy that Brittany got to have the experience of having this dream come true. I do feel a little bit sad that a part of her might not feel as if it turned out the way she wanted it to. She did make the Final 3, but as she spoke of before, a lot of the perception on her was that she just wasn't driving the game forward. But I think that Brittany was great for the show. I was really excited to see a super fan like her go deep in the game and get to do something she was so passionate about. She had a confessionalist episode about not just every waking moment just thinking about Survivor. She goes to bed and just thinks about Survivor, and she can't sleep. And it's just, I know that the game took a lot of an emotional toll on a lot of people, but Brittany was just great to see on this season. And just because she didn't get a vote at Final Tribal doesn't mean that she didn't play a great game, because I think she did play a great game.
Yes. We love Brittany.
We love Brittany. Queen Brittany.
Yes.
Rob's goddess.
Oh boy, our last one.
Last eulogy. Season 1.
Our final
boy.
eulogy. Who could it be? Who better, I think, almost represents the season better than anybody than Mitchell Doppelt.
I think that he represents Maison, honestly. If I'm thinking of who I think of Maison, I'm going to think of Mitch.
Yeah, when I think Maison, what do I think? I think Mitch. I think Mitch.
He's the one that came up with the name.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Mitch.
Yeah,
we'll have to go back and take
a look at it.
But I'm pretty sure it was Mitch. Mitch is somebody who also, I think, put so much. I think everybody in this final 6 really did. Or,
yes.
Everybody almost in the merge did, but he put so much time and effort into this game, and at the expense of sometimes maybe seeing he put a little too much in this game and not enough, personality in the game that he kind of was called a game bot sometimes. But I can't really blame him for that. I think this game is something you can get so sucked up and wrapped into that it kind of really does take over everything, and you could see for him that kind of came back to bite him, and he put so much like energy and stuff into being like this game bot or whatever, that kind of emotionless facade kind of broke down, and he had a very emotional ending to this game, and like I feel so much for him because I know that us looking back and seeing this a year later, it's so easy to say, kind of like what Leia just said, that what the heck is he doing, why is he thinking this, but it's another thing actually being out there with these people for so long. You've been lying to other people, strategizing, blah 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 blah, and like it kind of, when you reach like that close to the end, I can really see how it can all just kind of like fall apart on you, especially in a high stress situation where like where this is like final season too. We're just really talking enough about like there's so much stuff going on in these people's lives that's a Survivor that you see like nothing of. And we've probably poked the most fun at Mitch out of anybody in this game, but it's just because he is so passionate about this game, and we love that. And
so passionate.
Yeah,
I think
his mom should be proud of the way that Mitch played this game.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I think he really did want to play a game with integrity and honesty, and that's what ultimately he had to make. He came to a point where he couldn't do that anymore, and that was really hard for him. And I think that definitely was tough for him to kind of go to the final tribal, playing up this game of honesty and integrity, but having just kind of got caught up in that, let's not forget, he did win the final 3 immunity challenge.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment.
He won 3 immunities this season. He came a long way since his text message saying us guys text message.
And he was the last of the guys of Maison,
He was, yeah. He was the last of the Maison men. So I don't know. He did have to go to the hospital because of his nose.
His sinus.
He cares about Survivor enough to go to the hospital over it.
Yeah.
There's been 2 hospitalizations this season.
Yeah.
Alex Trowski, right, and Mitch.
Well, and Cam broke his arm.
And Cam, that's true.
Wow.
It's been a very, very emotionally and physically taxing season. I think that we can see from everybody that it's...
and Kara. Crutches.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Kara.
gosh.
Yeah.
Kara.
So is it Kara or is it Kara?
Kara.
Kara. Kara came in crutches.
Yeah. And this girl on crutches was able to win immunity.
This girl
She was.
on crutches.
Yeah. But, yeah, Mitch did get that 1 vote from Leia, and it was clear they had a very, very strong relationship. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that was very, very influential in getting them both very far in the game. I think that we kind of talked about it earlier. Maybe there were just a few moments where Mitch could have made a different decision and it might have worked out better for him. Maybe if he would have just stuck out the challenge and not made a deal, that could have worked better and just voted out Trowski. I think that earlier, maybe the decisions to get rid of Angela and Akshay, maybe it didn't work out as well for him either. He was very confident a couple episodes ago that he was going to come to the finals and win, and we kind of saw it fall apart. But that's not to say that Mitch isn't a very strong Survivor player. He clearly has a lot of knowledge, and he got second place. Second place out of 18 people. That's impressive. It's not you're not a failure if you didn't win the game.
He voted correctly every time. He was never voted out.
He did have a lot of influence on what was happening, and he pretty much always knew what was happening. Other than some of these secret relationships that really nobody knew about. I wouldn't want to say that he only did get 1 vote, but I would also say the same as for Mitch that I said as Brittany, that he was a very strong Survivor player, and I think that the vote count doesn't necessarily reflect how strong he was. Well, that brings us to one more person left that we need to talk about.
We're talking about? Okay.
I mean, it's not a eulogy. He's not dead. He's the only one that survived.
We only have one standing.
Winner. Yeah, one left standing.
100 days, 18 people, and one sole survivor. And who is that?
It is Alex Tarowski.
Tarot Sky.
Tarot Sky. Wow. So who would have thought going to the merge vote that this mob boss would be end up in the final 3 and winning this game? Like, he has had, I think, one of the most incredible arcs to watch in like any season of Survivor, CBS or Real. Yeah. His relationship with Thaw, we've talked about it hours and hours, but it's just been definitely one of the most dynamic and interesting to ever come to the game. And might have, I think, probably like the funniest confessionals of this season, or at least he's up there. Like, from early on, one of the most iconic confessionals is him, deciding how he should play this game. He's like, either I can, be a hardcore villain, or I could go. And he's like, no, I have to become that villain. And, I think that there's one thing though that I always think of about Tarowski. I can't really talk much about his strategic game, about kind of really what he's saying. I am just so... his legs, those damn Tarowski legs, when he man-spreads in those confessionals. I don't know how that didn't come up while we were talking.
I know. We should have asked him about it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but he legged it out to such an amazing...
He made it to the last leg of the race.
He did.
Oh my gosh.
I don't and just he got so many votes against him, and you can definitely argue that might be, you're not in that good of a position if you're getting all these votes against you, but at the same time he was able to survive getting all these votes against you.
Yeah. I think he is kind of like he kind of had 2 different phases to his game. I think kind of how we mentioned that, like, he was the kingpin mob boss for a while with like whipping out his idols, and everyone's terrified so terrified of him they didn't even want to vote for him because they're like, he probably just has an idol, like classic Tarowski.
Yeah.
He always kind of snuck up behind Cooper and plucked the idol from underneath Cooper, and apparently he talked about it. He told that story apparently many times. He's very proud of that. And then I think the second phase of the game, he kind of became like more of a cockroach that would kind of... there's all these nuclear explosions, and he knew when to kind of dodge them, when to kind of lay low. And you kind of saw the Maisons and the other Neelas just kind of go at it and use these nuclear blasts against each other, and they all kind of got decimated. I think that all that stuff really decimated Mitch and Brittany so much that they weren't able to win the game anymore against him. So, yeah, I think that Tarowski had a very, very good game. I think that I will say that there's some aspects to it where there was luck and there's bad decisions made by other people that helped him along, but he took advantage of every opportunity he had. He really did. Great winner. He is such a great first winner of Survivor Michigan. He had such a great story. I'm amazed that George was able to find all 18 of these people are so special in their own way, but like, he has been so much fun to watch on television. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, so at the end of season 1, there's this question on everybody's lips: is there going to be a season 2, guys? What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a second season of Survivor Michigan? Didn't George say that this is his only season? Oh no! Does that mean that Survivor Michigan is ending? No,
it's not the end game, even though it kind of is. But no, there's going to be a season 2, and. Wow. Yes, we are on it, but...
What?
Everywhere.
Spoilers! Whoa, spoilers, one last time.
But guys, don't worry. We'll still be here. We'll bring on people from our season. Like, it won't be weird. We'll have a lot of insider info.
Well, we might be bringing on people from season 1 to talk about their perspective as they... some of them... There's a lot of people who were producers on season 2 that actually played on season 1, and there's a lot that, just weren't... kind of got survivored out and weren't able to come around as much, but
layout.
So there's a lot more content to come. I don't know. Can we say anything about like a full release or to look out for anything now?
Definitely just look out for information on season 2, and we will be releasing a preview at some point. I can't tell you when because I don't know, but we will be releasing a preview.
Yes.
So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, we are still finishing up season 1 things. As George mentioned, he has post-game interviews he's going to be going through. We are also thinking of having one last season 1 podcast, and we're hoping to involve the audience and listeners in that.
So stay tuned on social media, and we'll announce some more details on that in the future.
Yeah, and also leading up to season 2, we'll have podcasts like cast assessments and, everything just like leading up to the actual release. So
Yes.
you'll definitely still be hearing from us.
Maybe we should start talking about Ohio State, about time and change.
Oh, yeah. Survivor OSU is going to have a second season coming out soon. Their first season was amazing.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, just saying that.
I don't know. I didn't.
No, I actually watched that, and that's like, I got so hyped, like, the summer before I, like, applied because I was watching Survivor Maryland and Survivor OSU. Like, I watched that more than the actual show.
Wow.
So, yeah, props to them for getting me into it.
Yeah,
we'll have some fun things.
Yeah, we'll keep active. We'll stay in your podcast subscriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Don't unsubscribe. Don't worry. Even though season 1 is coming to an end, even though you might have to say goodbye to George Janye West, you do not have to say goodbye to Survivor Michigan or Keep Your Torch Lit.
Yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of us, and you might even see our faces, not just our voices, our faces.
For the updates, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle's at KYTL Podcast for Instagram and Twitter.
And another thing before we log off here, just want to give one last shout out and thank you to George and the rest of the production crew. Round of applause for them. George, Claire, George's mom, and George's stepdad. We're very, very thankful for all the work you guys did. And George, especially all the work you did in... There's just so much. You created such a great final product for all of us to watch. Season 1, at all points, is just so... It's unpredictable. We knew what would happen, but it's still unpredictable.
Yeah.
And, like, we're a little biased, but I'm pretty confident in saying this is a top-tier Survivor season of any kind. College, CBS, whatever. I had so much fun watching this and discussing it with both of you, and that's all thanks to this amazing cast and George. And
so, yeah. All right.
This is weird, guys. We have to sign off.
Well, we might have one more, but
yeah.
For like from the official episodes.
Yeah.
So, with that, we'll be signing off on episode 13. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for other new things.
Yes.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Spoilers.
That's a perfect ending.